Miss Arya to moderate today's English session. Welcome, Mr. Arya.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone, to the 1991st day of the uninterrupted webinar series of the International Forum for Promoting Homeopathy. I am Arya. I'm a third year student from Kottayam, Kerala, and I'll be your moderator today. So, today our chief guest is Dr. Surabhi Soni, Assistant Professor from Department of Surgery at Ahmedabad Homeopathic Medical College, Parul University. And today's topic is a very interesting one from the point of view in gynecology. That is something that, due to increasing sedentary lifestyle as well as post-operative complications, unfortunately, many women experience the problem of incontinence, urinary incontinence. And some of them silently endure this problem due to embarrassment. And some of them take it as a common problem of aging. But as we know, it can lead to many complications. So, the only conventional management available today primarily is to focus on pelvic floor exercises like Kegel as well as some surgeries. So, from homeopathic viewpoint, today, Dr. Surabhi Soni will be discussing with us about the topic, the role of homeopathy in case of urinary incontinence. The floor is all yours, ma'am. Welcome.
Co-host now. Yes, Dr. Surabhi, you can.
Yes. Should I
Am
should I do
am
the
I audible
introduction
now?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for the introduction. So I'll start my session.
Okay. You can start your PowerPoint. You can connect it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm Dr. Surabhi Soni and I'm an associate professor in surgery department. Not assistant. I'm associate professor in surgery in Ahmedabad
Sorry,
Homeopathic Medical. Yeah, no problem. From Ahmedabad Homeopathic Medical College. So today, keeping in mind the topic urinary incontinence, which is a part of the surgery in the urinary tract system. So I'll be focusing on that. Is my slide visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. Okay, so urinary incontinence is defined as involuntary leakage of the urine. Involuntary leakage of urine which constitute a social or hygienic problem and indicates failure of the normal continence mechanism. So this topic, the importance or the why I have taken this topic is that involuntary leakage of urine is not only the disease, but it also create a social and hygienic and sometimes very much embarrassing condition for the, as ma'am told, for the female as well as male. But it is very, sometimes I've seen the patient is very embarrassed because sometimes involuntary they pass urine. It can be of a small quantity or large quantity, it does not matter, but it does not look nice. So because of that also patients suffer mentally, and they become embarrassed in a social place. So social or hygienic problem and indicates the failure of the normal continence mechanism. So normal continence mechanism is the mechanism in which our urine is automatically voluntary, control, it is in our hand. So whether to pass urine or not, when there is a indication from the brain that bladder is full and you need to pass urine, but what we control, our external sphincter are so strong that we control the urethral pressure is more than the bladder pressure, and so we, there is a motor reaction and we control that no, this is not the time, it is in our hand that it is not time to pass the urine, or whether to pass or not, that is in our control. But here what happens, this control is lost. So there is a passage of involuntary leakage of the urine. It may occur in the patient with normal urinary tract as a result of, so there need not to be a specific any disease or pathology. Sometimes it also occur because of the dementia or poor mobility, or transiently during an acute illness or hospitalization. Dementia means it is a condition where the patient has lost the control of thinking, orientation. He is not in that state that he can take a decision whether to control this condition or not, whether to pass the urine or not. He is not in that state only. So that is why number one, dementia or poor mobility. In many of the patient, there can be a issue in the when the patient is chronically bedridden or sometimes hospitalized, and because of that, because of the poor mobility, the control is lost. And because of some acute illness or hospitalization, especially in the older people, we see that there is an involuntary leakage of the urine. So if we see the prevalence and the risk factor, female are 25 to 45% of the patient. So if you see the gender, females are more prone to this infection. Why? That will also see in later on. Elderly people above 65 year of the age, and in that also 15% is women and 10% is the men. Elderly, but obviously because at a particular time in geriatric cases, what will happen, that we all know that when once the aging start, your body, your system, your cells all start degenerating. So the normal functions are lost, it become weak. So that is why the reactions or the voluntary function and the sphincters and all become weak, and so the elderly person suffer. And yes, why women suffer more? Because of the risk factor, that is childbirth, hysterectomy, obesity, recurrent UDI. So many of the female gynecological, if we'll give it a focus, so after hysterectomy or after childbirth, repeated childbirth, what happened? The pelvic muscles, it becomes weak. The sphincter, the reactions of the bladder, all that becomes very much weak, and because of that, the women suffer more. Obesity, but obviously obesity is the root cause of the many multiple diseases. Recurrent UTI, because of the recurrent urinary tract infections, sometimes it happens that the voluntary function of the passing of the urine is lost. Smoking, caffeine, and constipation. Smoking and caffeine cannot be a direct cause, but it can be indirect cause or indirect pathology will leading to the involuntary leakage of the urine. And constipation, but obviously if there is constipation, so what happens that sometimes because of the chronic the patient forcefully, the patient tries to pass the stool forcefully, he applies pressure every time, and because of that the pelvic muscles become weak, the anal perianal area becomes weak, the muscle become weak, the sphincters become weak, the power of the sphincter become weak. So because of that, what happened? The constipation, because of the constipation, prolapse and many other diseases also occur. But here the sphincter, the weakness of the sphincter, which will lead to the passing of the urine. Okay, if we see the mechanism, so what is normal continence mechanism? Normal continence mechanism means it is in our control whether to pass urine or not. So how we control the passing of the urine? So once a urine fills the bladder, a stretch receptor is activated. So stretch receptor means what? The bladder has a capacity, it has an elastic property. So it has a capacity to it increases in size. But what happens once it will increase its size, means a capacity is now over, so a stretch receptor is activated. So it will now give a signal that now it is a time that now the bladder will not increase in size and you need to pass the urine. Now it is the limit. So now signal to the spinal cord and brain. But obviously it is a supreme power of our body, supreme system of the body. Each and every, you can say, signals are, or every decision of our body is decided by the brain. So the signal will reach to spinal cord and brain. So now brain has different section. For example, if you will see, in our house there are different sections, like father has a typical responsibility of earning, mother has a responsibility of nurturing the child. So like this way different sections are divided. Same way in the brain, different systems, sections, part are divided. In that, pontine storage center is activated. So pontine storage center, why it is activated? Because the micturition center is located over there. So the micturition center of our body, so the role of passing of the urine or whether to pass or control, that center is in the pontine storage center, so that will be activated. So it will activate now our sympathetic activity. So what it will do, it will the detrusor muscle relaxes. Now, what is detrusor muscle? It is a muscle which is present solely in the bladder, and its function, it can increase, it has a property of increasing in the size. And what will happen, our bladder is very small, but once the urine will fill, so it can increase in size. So this detrusor muscle is like a flap which is present, and when there is overloaded urine in the bladder, the detrusor muscle can expand, but it can expand to a limit. After that, there will be signal to pass urine. So detrusor muscle, if it contracts, so the internal sphincter will relax and external sphincter will relax, and this how the urine is passed. But here it is opposite. We need to control the urine. So detrusor muscle will relax. So now internal sphincter will contract. There are two sphincter in the urinary bladder, which is inside the bladder, that is internal sphincter, and which is outside the bladder and in between urethra, that is external sphincter. So now internal sphincter will contract. Now this is involuntary. This is not in our control, but the control of the external sphincter is in our control. For example, I'll tell you, okay, whenever there is a sensation of the urine, that you need to pass urine, so what we control or we compress is the external sphincter. The relaxation or contraction of the detrusor muscle on internal sphincter is not in our hand. It is coordinated by the brain, the harmonious and normal functioning of the brain, that is pontine storage center. Now somatic activity will increase, and because of that, somatic means our body reaction, our activity. So now the external sphincter will contract. So pelvic floor muscle contract, and now the urethral pressure is more than bladder pressure. First, the bladder pressure was increased. Why? So that is why we need an urge to pass urine. But now we need to control, we need to like give a pressure so that the urine does not pass. So urethral pressure must be higher than bladder pressure, and which is done by the external sphincter contract and pelvic floor muscle contract, which is voluntary, which is in our hand. So now this is the urinary continence maintained. This is how. But if it fails, then there will be involuntary leakage of the urine. So now what are the etiological classifications? So there are 6 types of incontinence: stress, urge, mixed, overflow, continuous, and post-surgical. So what is stress urinary incontinence? From the word only you can understand stress. So involuntary leakage of urine increased during increased intra-abdominal pressure without detrusor contraction. So here there is no role of the detrusor muscles, but the intra-abdominal pressure is increased. So how the intra-abdominal pressure will increase? So weak pelvic floor or urethral sphincter. So as I told you in the earlier slide, if the urethral sphincter, so if there is the weakness of that sphincter, which is in our hand, which is voluntary function, or weak pelvic floor muscle, if you will try, you can just contract your pelvic floor muscles and you can relax it. That is again in our hand. So the weakness of that and the reduced urethral closure pressure, so urethra will not close properly. And how this will happen? When there is sudden increase in intra-abdominal pressure by coughing, sneezing, and laughing. For example, if you will cough repeatedly, there will be forceful coughing or forceful sneezing or laughing, or during constipation, if you will forceful apply pressure, so the intra-abdominal pressure increases, and during that time a bit of the leakage of the urine occurs. So now the bladder pressure is more than the urethral pressure. So that is why leakage of urine without detrusor. Normally it is because of the detrusor relaxation the urine pass, but here what will happen? That there will be no relaxation or contraction of the detrusor muscle, but there is increase of the intra-abdominal pressure and the bladder pressure, and because of that there will be leakage of urine. What is the causes? So it can be multiparity, means I told you in the earlier slide, because of the repeated multiple pregnancy. Hysterectomy. Hysterectomy is that the removal of the uterus, and because of that many of the muscles in the pelvic area becomes weak. Pelvic floor becomes weak. Post Prostatectomy in male patient after removal of the surgery of the prostate can cause the weakness of that muscle area and pelvic floor weakness. So the clinical features are leakage on coughing, sneezing, laughing, no urgency, and small amount. A very little amount of urine will be passed and no urgency. There will be no urgency. There will be only leakage of the urine. Second is the urge urinary incontinence. Urge, involuntary leakage of urine associated with sudden strong urge to void. Whenever there is urgency and there is leakage of urine, that is urge urinary incontinence. So detrusor muscle instability. Detrusor muscle, here in the earlier slide there was no any pathology related to the detrusor muscle, but here there is pathology related to the detrusor muscle. So detrusor muscle instability, involuntary detrusor contraction, sudden intense urge to void, inability to inhibit the contraction, and so there will be detrusor muscle instability, means sometime it will relax, it will contract, relax, contract, so there is no stability, and because of that involuntary, and this happens involuntary, there is no any specific pathology, but there is you can say abnormal contraction of the detrusor muscles, and because of that there is sudden urge to pass the urine, and you cannot control that contraction, and then there is leakage of the urine. Causes are bladder irritation, neurological lesion, bladder irritation, for example, because during any surgery, if there is sometimes during surgery the bladder is hurt, or there is injury to bladder, or any neurological lesion, or post pelvic surgery nerve injury, all this can cause the urge incontinence. Clinical features will be urgency. As soon as the bladder fills, if it is filled partly, then also the patient has a desire to the pass urine. Frequency, there is multiple. Patient has passed urine, after 5-10 minutes or after 15 minutes again there will be urgency to pass the urine. Why? Because the patient is not able to control, or that the sphincter weakness, so not able to control that contraction, so there will be a repeated urgency. Nocturia, in the night there will be frequency of the urine, and large volume of urine is passed, not like stress incontinence where there is little amount of urine, only during the pressure there is passing of urine, but here there will be large amount of urine is lost. Third is the mixed variety, where there is a combination of stress and urge incontinence, common in elderly and post-surgical patients. So it is combination of both. There can be abnormal like after surgery, or if you will see not physiologically, but you can say age related issues. So there is combination of elderly as well as post-surgical operation. Okay, now fourth is overflow urinary incontinence. What is overflow urinary incontinence? So continuous dribbling of urine due to chronic bladder over distension. So here there is no stoppage of the urine. Constantly a bit of the little urine is constantly dribbling from the bladder. Why it is? Because it is the overflow, bladder overflow distension. For example, I'll tell you, you will try to fill a bottle with water, and once it is filled and then also you are pouring water, then what will happen? There is no space to get filled, so the water will leak out. Same will happen, the bladder, there is chronic a bit of the urine in the bladder, and because of that the bladder has over distended, and because of that there will be continuous dribbling of the urine. So pathophysiology, bladder outlet obstruction or impaired detrusor contractibility. So either the bladder outlet, that is also the short form is BOO. So there is outlet obstruction or impaired detrusor contractibility. So sometimes it will get contracted or relaxation. So because of that, the capacity to emptying or voiding of the bladder is disturbed. So because of that, incomplete bladder emptying, and this will cause chronic bladder over distension. The bladder will not get empty. Some of the urine will remain in the bladder, and because of that, what will happen? The bladder constantly, it will remain over distended. This will cause increased intravesical pressure, and pressure exceed urethral resistance. So because of the over distension of the bladder, so the bladder pressure will increases, it will exceed the urethral resistance. In the earlier slide, I have told the pathophysiology of or what is the normal functioning of the urinary normal continence, not incontinence. What is the normal urinary continence? So in that, I have told you there is a balance of the bladder pressure and urethral pressure. Basically, if the urethral pressure is high, then only we will able to control the urine. But if the bladder pressure increases or bladder resistance increases as compared to the urethral, the pressure increases and there will be involuntary passing of the urine. So now the continuous dribbling of the urine will occur in this. Causes prostatic enlargement, urethral stricture. So here you can see overflow urinary incontinence, there is continuous dribbling of the urine. So here the problem is that the bladder outlet obstruction, that is some of the stricture or outlet is blocked, and because of that the urine is not able to void, and so that is why now the bladder has tired and it has over distended. So causes also, you can say the prostatic enlargement, because of that there is pressure on the bladder, and some of the because of that pressure proper voiding of urine is not happening, or urethral stricture, and because of that urine is not properly emptying of the bladder is happening, and because of that some of the urine is in the bladder. Post operative urinary retention after, you can say the for example hysterectomy, multiple birth, this prostatectomy. So because of that what will happen, there is urinary retention, some of the urine will remain inside, and because it is causing the bladder distension. Diabetic neuropathy, because of that neurological problem, as I told you in the earlier slide, it can cause improper voiding of the urine and over distension. Clinical feature: dribbling of the urine, poor stream of urine, palpable distended bladder. Whenever, yes, this is very important examination. When you will palpate the bladder in the hypogastric region, you can see the distended bladder. Why? Because normally if the bladder is empty, you will not typically palpate it, but once it will get enlarged, you can feel it in the pubic region. So that is what the palpable distended bladder. So, and poor stream of urine, because of this causes like prostatic enlargement, urethral stricture, the urine, the force which should be normally occur, that is not happening in this because of this causes. So the stream of urine is very poor, and dribbling of the urine. So there will be a drip or a drop constantly coming out. The fifth variety is continuous continence. So constant leakage of urine day and night. It is because of some structural abnormality of urinary tract, loss of normal sphincter control, constant uncontrollable. So now here you can see there is abnormality of urinary tract, structural abnormality of the urinary tract, and because of that what is happening, the normal sphincter control is lost, and constant uncontrollable leakage of the urine and continuous urinary incontinence. So here you can see a pathologically in the structure. Some there is pathology in the urinary, it can be congenital, it can be acquired, and because of that the sphincter control is lost. So there will be day and night constant. So in such patient we can use a catheter or urinary bag, a catheter attached to the urinary bladder, because there will be constant urine. Causes vesicovaginal fistula, ureterovaginal fistula, and congenital ectopic ureter. As I told you, the cause can be congenital. Since birth only there is ectopic ureter, and because of that there is no proper sphincter control, the ureter is outside. So that is why there is constant leakage of the urine, or any fistula, ureterovaginal or vesicovaginal, which is disturbing and causing the constant leakage of the urine. So urine keeps leaking continuously without urge. There is no urge. As soon as the bladder will fill, it will come out. I can give you an example of, for example, a water bottle. If there is no cap, Cap is for the protection of the bottle so that the water does not come out or water does not drop or leak. If you will just change its position, then also the water will not come out. So here what will happen, same way, it is for the protection. So same here it will happen, the sphincter, the control of the sphincter is lost. So now what will happen, day and night, as soon as the bladder is filled, even if the amount is less, it will void. The last variety is surgical urinary incontinence. First, after prostate surgery, cause damage to external urethral sphincter, loss of bladder neck support. So it is purely related to surgical. That after prostatic surgery, which is very common in male, that because of the anatomical position, sometimes the bladder is injured, and because of that, ultimately the pathology ends at urethral sphincter or external sphincter. If it is damaged, injured, because you can say pathologically because of any disease or by surgical means, it will lead to the urinary incontinence. After gynecological surgery, like as I told you in the very early slide, in the very first or second slide, pelvic floor weakness, bladder neck displacement, nerve injury, repeated delivery, repeated cesarean section, hysterectomy, all will this lead to the urinary incontinence. History will be how we will evaluate the case. So first we have to take the onset, since when it is started, type of leakage, you can say, because why, because the 6 type we have seen, it purely depends. If you will take a proper history, on that basis only you will able to diagnose whether this is stress, urge, post surgical, overflow, or mixed variety. From the history only you will able to diagnose, and you can rule out the cause. So according to that you can treat the patient. So type of the leakage, as we discussed in the earlier slide, that what is the type of the leakage, on that basis we can come to diagnosis. Relation to coughing or urgency, because stress continence was because of the coughing, urge, urinary incontinence because of the urge. Surgical history, operatic history. Now examination. So abdominal examination for the distended bladder, whether the bladder is distended or not, it will clarify that it is continuous urinary incontinence or some other pathology. Pelvic examination, cough stress test. Cough stress test means we will ask patient. Patient is asked to have a comfortably full bladder and placed in a lithotomy or standing position, and a speculum is inserted to visualize the urethral meatus, and the patient is asked to cough forcefully. Leakage of the urine synchronized with the cough indicates stress urinary continence. It is very simple. We will ask patient to lie in a lithotomy position and the bladder is full, and we'll ask the patient to cough. And during coughing, if we can see, we have to observe the urethral meatus by a speculum. We can broaden it so that the examination become easy. And during coughing, if during that time only the urine is passed, so we can synchronize it that it is because of the stress incontinence. Investigation, very simple. We'll go with urine routine microanalysis to rule out the urinary tract infection, hematuria or glycosuria, means during diabetes or hematuria, is there any infection in the kidney or some other causes. Sonography for the post void residual urine, as we have discussed in the overflow and in the continuous urinary incontinence. Sometimes some amount of urine remains in the bladder despite of the recent emptying or passage of the urine. To assess the bladder emptying and detects the retention or outlet obstruction. Then cystoscopy, to visualize the cystoscopy is that the scope is inserted in the urethra and then bladder to visualize whether there is any kind of fistula or not, like vesicovaginal, like bladder and vagina fistula, ureter or vagina fistula, and other structures or lesions are ruled out. Okay, so the management is pelvic floor exercise, bladder training. See, along with homeopathy, this is very important. Pelvic floor exercise and bladder training and catheterization. We think that only with homeopathic medicine we can cure this. No, we need to ask our patient to do pelvic floor exercise, bladder training. We have to train the patient for the passing of the urine. Catheterization, very important. We also sometimes have to give antibiotic for the infection infections. These are the surgical processes which are required in some condition like sling procedure for stress incontinence, artificial urinary sphincter, fistula repair, and prostate surgery for obstruction. So now if we'll see, this was a brief explanation of the urinary incontinence and its types. So first we have to understand the pathology and types. On that basis we can prescribe the homeopathic remedy. And understanding, if you see the homeopathic viewpoint, so understanding urinary incontinence, it is an involuntary leakage of urine. It may occur due to weakness of the bladder sphincter or because of nerve dysfunction, enlarged prostate, childbirth, injury, chronic cough, obesity, emotional cause, or childhood development delay. So on the basis of that, our medicine and the causative factor and everything will be changed. Homeopathy consider the exciting causes, modalities we have to look for when leakage happens. Matlab, what is the modality of the leakage, associated complaint if present, mental state. During that time, mental state is the during that time, how is the mental condition of the patient? Because what happens, this is such a condition with patient becomes very embarrassed, traumatic. He fears to go in the social place because of the embarrassment that what if he will involuntary will pass urine. And also the constitution we have to look for. So therapeutic scope of homeopathy, it is useful in the urge, stress incontinence, nocturnal enuresis in children, incontinence after childbirth, prostatic dribbling in elderly, neurological weakness. In advanced structural pathology like tumor, severe prolapse, spinal injury, it acts more as a supplemental care. So the above, like stress, urge, and nocturnal, in all this we have scope. We have directly therapeutic scope that in this condition this remedy, this condition this remedy. But once it becomes advanced structural pathology, so in advanced structural pathology like tumor, severe prolapse, spinal injury, we don't have direct scope. It becomes supportive scope. Like we can have patient with pain or mental trauma or anxiety and all that. Supportive care we can give, because in the Master Hahnemann also described in the Organon, in the surgical diseases, and also a limitation of homeopathy in surgery, that if it is irreversible pathology or structural pathology or congenital some structural pathology, we cannot cure that patient. That is our limitation. Yes, so in such condition surgery becomes mandatory. So okay, so what is the homeopathic management? So first is the causticum. Paralysis or paresis of bladder sphincter. Paralysis, total loss of the function and sensation, and paresis is the weakness. The bladder is functioning, but there is weakness of the muscle, or partial, you can say it is functioning. Involuntary urination during coughing, sneezing, on walking, or on blowing nose. So here you can find a specific you can say symptom, that involuntary urination during coughing, sneezing, or walking. So here we can go with the stress urinary incontinence, or walking or blowing nose. When forceful sneezing can also cause a involuntary leakage of the urine. Urine is expelled very slowly and retained. A small amount of slowly dripping of the urine will occur and then it is retained. Enuresis during first sleep at night, also from slightest excitement. Enuresis during night during sleeping, first sleep at night, also from a slightest excitement in the more commonly in the male patient, there will be passing of the urine. Urine retention after surgical operation and after labor. What commonly happen after operation and after labor, because of the weakness of the sphincter, weakness of the muscle, what will happen? Some of the urine will remain inside bladder, as I explained you in the overflow urinary incontinence, that because of the bladder distension, some amount of urine will remain inside and it will cause the bladder distension. Loss of sensibility during urination, can't tell when urine is passing in the dark except only by the sense of touch. Loss of sensibility means, as I told you in the earlier, in the very first slide, the cause that during dementia also this occurs. So loss of sensibility, that the patient is unaware whether when to pass urine, the orientation is lost. So in that also you can go give causticum, but basically causticum is for the paralysis, paresis of the bladder sphincter. Equisetum, weakness of the bladder with dribbling in insane people who will not attend to the bladder, and in incontinence of urine in old men. So this is a kind of, you can say, physiological process when in elderly, that in what happened as when the patient is 60 plus in geriatric cases, but obviously all the muscle controls and all the sphincter, there will be weakness. So if a patient of older age come to you, so you can prescribe equisetum. Also there will be weakness of bladder with dribbling in insane people and in the older people. Incontinence in children and dreams of crowd of people, or nightmare when passing urine. This is a specific mental symptoms, incontinence in children and dreams of crowd of people or nightmare. The patient will have such dream that in the crowd the patient will pass urine, or nightmare of passing urine when there is multiple people over there. So this, you can see, a mental or traumatic symptom. This is a very abnormal mental symptom, or you can say embarrassment or some phobia that repeated patient will have such symptom. Nocturnal anuresis without cause except habit. So many of the patient I've seen that after you can say 6-7 years during in a childhood, what happens that the once a baby is toddler, the patient has nocturnal aneresis. But once a baby grows, we train them that you need not to pass urine in the bed, you just have to wake up, or you have to be alert and you have to pass the urine in the washroom only. So here what happened, that some of the patient does not develop that sense, and even after growing also they pass involuntary urine in the, that is nocturnal aneresis, or you can say they pass the urine in the bed during sleep. So there is no any specific cause or any abnormality, but they have a habit of doing that. So because of lack of bladder training or some mental issue, or but it happens. Incontinence in the old woman, passed small amount of urine but felt as if he had not urinated for hours. So small amount of urine is passed but felt as if not voided the bladder since long time. Uh, why this happened? Because small amount of urine is passed only when a bit of the bladder is filled, and immediately the patient feels like passing of the urine. So this is the frequency. So patient is passing urine after 10 minutes, 15 or 20 or half an hour, but the patient feels that he has not passed urines for long. When this happened, when we have not passed urine for almost 3, 4 or 5 hours, so bladder is totally filled, and that is normal, that time you have sensation. But immediately a small amount of urine is passed means the bladder is not that much filled. But then also patient is having a sensation that, or feeling that I have not passed the urine since long. Next is creosotum, suited to dark, complex, lean, ill-developed, poorly nourished, overgrown, and very tall for her age. As I told in the scope of homeopathy in this condition, that constitution also plays a very important role. When we don't have a specific symptoms or keynote symptoms, but we have a very sharp or marked constitution, we can take it in the totality. Offensive urine can urinate only during lying, and they cannot get out of bed quickly enough during the first sleep. Urinating during lying, this is very keynote and very characteristic of the creosotum. Not many patients will tell you such symptom, that urination while lying down. So that is, can urinate only during lying, and they cannot get out of the bed quickly enough after first sleep. After sleep, they will not able to just wake up and go to washroom or run for the urination. So that is a typical of the creosotum. Enuresis in night during first part of sleep, from which child is roused with difficulty. So enuresis in night during first part of the sleep, and which the child is roused, means the patient is very much unaware. The child is, as I told you also in the grown up patient, that they are very unaware of the passing of the urine. During sleep also it is very difficult to get out them from bed and to make them aware to pass the urine. Must hurry when desire comes to urinate. Urination involuntary when lying on coffin. So here also you can say stress urinary incontinence symptom, that urination is involuntary when lying on coughing. Next is the lycopodium. So in lycopodium, suited to intellectually keen but physically weak. So that is very typical of the lycopodium symptom, that the patient is intellectually keen but physically the patient is weak. So complaints are from anger, mortification, fright, or vexation with reserved displeasure. See, this is very specific symptom you will see in many patients, that because of some fear, anger. You have seen this in many of the movies, that when some of character faces some sudden threat, like someone standing in front of them with a gun, or some villain is standing, or any such condition where there is severe threat, they will pass urine. Even you can see in the child, when someone is scolding them in school, or mother or father is scolding very badly, they are yelling on him. So because of the fright, fear, the baby will or child will pass the urine. So complaint are from anger, for mortification, fright, or vexation. Vexation, mortification means there is some suppressed anger, and they are not able to just share it, or there is some kind of suppression, or their heart is full with some of the, you can say, feeling, emotion, which they are not able to bring out, some anger or anything. So that is vexation, anger, mortification with reserved displeasure. Urinary complaint with digestive disturbance. And urinary symptoms include involuntary urination, especially fever, long lasting incontinence of urine resulting from fright during coition. So sometimes happens during coition, because of the fear also, there is incontinence of the urine. Next is the natrum mur, so suited to cachectic and anemic. Cachectic and anemic means the mostly the meaning of the both word is same. Only cachectic is also very much lean, thin, malnourished because of anemia, because of you can say malnourishment or some deficiencies. The patient become very much lean, thin, whether from loss of vital fluid, seminal losses, profuse menses, or mental affection. See, natrum mur, here you can see many of the mental symptoms. It can be modality, it can be, you can say, a causative factor. If you will read natrum mur, there are the, especially the school going girls, suffering from any, you can say, love affection, or any breakup, or a loss of loved one, loss of mother. So these are the feeling which stays in that patient, long standing grief. So bad effect of anger, fright, grief, vexation, mortification, and reverse displeasure. Grief here, there is a difference between sadness and grief. The word which, for example, today I'm not feeling good, I'm feeling sad. That is very casual word we use now and then. But grief is, you can say, very deep emotion, deep sadness. For example, grief is, for example, loss of the loved one, loss of mother, death of father. That is a grief. The pain which is uh, created, or pain which is after loss of loved one, so that is grief, that much level of pain. Or you can say loss of, severe loss of finance, so that is grief. Involuntary urination when coughing, sneezing, laughing, walking, so anything intra-abdominal pressure, as I told you in the stress incontinence, that involuntary urination when you can give that. Can't pass urine in front of other, that is very typical symptom. Weakness of the bladder, can't retain urine as they have frequent or sudden desire to urinate with copious flow. Here there is typical incontinence because they cannot control urine, because as soon as there is urge, there is sudden and severe desire to pass the urine, so they cannot control, they don't have a capacity to retain it, they need to pass the urine at that time. Next is phosphorus, suited for tall, slender person of sanguine temperament, delicate eyelashes, fair skin, fine blonde or red hair, quick perception, and end up very sensitive in nature. This we all know. This is you can say a polycrest remedy. Phosphorus. We all know the constitution of the phosphorus. That is tall, slender person of sanguine temperament, very delicate, and this is a typical look of the patient, indicated for urge incontinence and overflow incontinence. So you can prescribe this when there is a urge incontinence or overflow incontinence, sudden urge to urinate without pain while passing. So there will be, again, as soon as a bladder is filled, the patient will have a urge to urinate. Urine is acrid, smell offensive. Yes, you can again take this in the typical keynote symptom, that the patient will have involuntary the urine will be acrid and smell very much offensive. Till now we have not seen such symptom, but here acrid, the patient will have a feeling of burning urine. The next, involuntary urination in children who grow too rapidly, incontinence of urine in aged person from paralysis of the sphincter. Yes, again, we have also seen this symptom in the causticum when there is paralysis or paresis of the sphincter. So because of that, here you can see a typical pathology where there is a paralysis of sphincter. So, but obviously the patient will not able to control the urine and there will be incontinence of the urine. So here also you can give here also you can give phosphorus in the incontinence of the urine in the aged person from the paralysis of the sphincter. Full bladder, desire to urinate but unable to pass urine, or incontinence both from paralysis of bladder. So bladder is full, desire to urinate but unable to pass, again because of the paralysis of the bladder. As I told you in the earlier line, that will be because of the paralysis, the patient will not able to pass urine. There will be not much of the sensation despite of the bladder is full. Okay. Next remedy, Sorinum. When the selected remedy fail to improve or relieve in chronic cases, this drug is found useful. You can also give Sorinum as an sometimes anti-miasmatic when you have prescribed one or other remedy and you does not get result. Or sometimes happen you have received, you have seen one or two symptom relieved, but then there is an askew condition and there is no further improvement. You can give it as an intercurrent as well as an anti-miasmatic, because Sorinum is an antisoric remedy. So ailment are from even slight emotion, suppression of each or in other skin diseases when sulfur remedy fail to relieve. So it is typical psoriatic symptom when there is a skin complaint and there is a suppression of that skin complaint like itch or any other skin disease, dermatitis, urticaria, any of the skin disease, and it is suppressed. And because of any we have read that in Organon in the miasm, so I'm not going in that detail, but it is suppressed because of any reason, and even ailments from slightest emotion. So all these emotions and skin disease are suppressed and you have given sulfur and it is not relieved. So Sorinum is the next phase of the remedy. Has to pass urine several times from weakness of the bladder. Anuresis is from bladder, paresis, which has aggravation at full moon. See, in the earlier remedies, we have not seen that much of the pathology. It is very symptomatic, but as the further going, the pathology of the remedies are increases. Most of here we are seeing most of the paralysis pathology, bladder paresis. In the earlier two remedies also we have seen that because of the paralysis of the bladder, the patient is not able to control the urine and there is involuntary passing of the urine. Urine is thick, turbid, whitish or red deposit. So that is very typical symptom, that the urine will be thick, turbid, and the white or red deposit you can see in the urine. Escape of urine during coughing. Again, this is a symptom of the stress urinary incontinence, that the urine will pass because of there will be increase in the intra-abdominal pressure like coughing, sneezing, laughing, constipation, and because of that urine will pass. Next remedy is pulsatilla, so adapted to person who are slow, indecisive or phlegmatic temperament with pale face, blue eyes, sandy hair, and are easily moved to laughter or tears. Again and again, these are the constitution, as I explained in the earlier slide, that the constitution plays very important role in the therapeutics. When you don't find much of the keynotes and just you see the personality or character of the patient, you can prescribe on that basis as well. Because in surgery also I teach therapeutic, that what is the importance of the therapeutic, not only the constitutional, phasic or acute remedy. Sometimes therapeutic also work really well when you don't have a good number of symptoms, you don't have a time of taking totality, you don't find any specific method or approach, then you can directly go to the therapeutic. So this is the constitution. So they are mild, gentle, affectionate, timid, yielding disposition. We all know, very typical symptom of the pulsatilla. Useful for all type of urinary incontinence. So here you can see all type of urinary incontinence. We have seen the 6 type. In all 6 type, pulsatilla can work. Scarcely wait for urine. When they have urinate sensation, they feel as if it would gush away. So yes, here again you can feel that the patient has sensation that the control over the passing of the urine is lost. So as soon as the bladder feel, the patient need to urge to void the urine. Otherwise, patient feel that there will be involuntary passing of the urine. So, and the urine, they also feel that it would gush away. Gush away means there will be a forceful flow of the urine. Involuntary micturition at night on laughing, coughing, or passing flatus. Again, the same symptom of stress, urinary incontinence. Sneezing after pleasurable, surprise, shock, or hearing sudden noise during sleep, especially in the little girl. So these are the sudden, you can say, when there is any shock, fear, fright, or stress, or intra-abdominal pressure is increased. So in such condition, there will be passing of the urine. So pulsatilla can be prescribed. Dribbling of urine with anger when sitting or walking. Nocturnal enuresis seen after measles and in autumn, especially in the little girl. You can see the autumn, specific season, or after measles. So that time also you can give this remedy. Sepia, adapted to person of dark hair, rigid fiber but mild and easy disposition. Bedwetting, stress and urge incontinence. Very, very important. Bedwetting, when the patient has lost control of sensibility and during sleep he involuntarily pass urine. Then stress and urge incontinence. Its symptoms include involuntary urination during first sleep. Child passes urine as soon as he goes to sleep. This is also one of the type of the bedwetting, that once the patient goes or child goes to sleep, after being a toddler, the patient is, we train them that you need not to pass the urine in the bed. You need to go to washroom, or you need to wake your mother to pass the urine. But this sensation is lost. The patient pass urine during sleep. Involuntary urination, aggravation, coughing, sneezing, laughing, hearing sudden noise, fright, or inattention, especially in women. Enuresis nocturna in boys. Enuresis nocturna in boys of light complexion. In onanist, involuntary urination if desire is not immediately compiled with. Urine deposit a reddish clay-colored sediment which adheres to the vessel as if it had been burned on, fitted, or offensive, must be removed from the room and is most important symptom for the differentiation. Yes, many of the symptom which I told you is also similar in many other remedies which we have seen, but here you can, the very characteristic symptom of the urine, which the clay-colored reddish sediment will be found, and the next it is very much offensive. As soon as the patient will pass urine, the room will smell very badly. So in that also, on these 2 bases, you can prescribe sepia. Next is Staph aureus. Person are very mild, sweet, gentle person. They are sensitive to rudeness and cannot fight her own rights. Staph aureus has very a typical personality, that they have very much high morals. You can say, if you have seen any in any serial, daily soap, Indian serial, so there is a typical moral. The main character females are very high moral. They are very typical that this is wrong, this is right. They will not do such things. So Staph aureus like this personality. So that is why they are very sensitive to rudeness, cannot fight her own rights. Complaints are from indignation, mortification, envy, chagrin, pride, unmerited insult. They cannot bear the insult. They have very much high morals. They take very much pride in their morality, in their, you can say, sanskar. In Hindi, we say this word. So they take very much pride in that, and there is sometimes if you insult them, so that can be one of the ailments. From whenever you insult Staphylococcus patient, they take it very much, they take it to their mind and heart, and they become very much sensitive. One of the ailments from is also and it is useful. I'll just go in speed because I think 5 minutes are remaining, so I'll just read fast. This remedy is useful for stress and urge incontinence. Incontinence from infection, honeymoon cystitis, very important, honeymoon cystitis. Staphylococcus for honeymoon cystitis, involuntary and copious micturition on coughing, involuntary discharge of urine, acrid and corroding, aggravation, motion, ailments after catheter and lithotomy. Okay, so last but not the least, miasmatic consideration. If we'll see the miasmatic, chronic urinary incontinence may be linked to psoric. If we'll see psora, so psora will have a functional weakness. Psychotic, if any obstruction we'll see, prostatic enlargement we'll see, in that we can consider patient as a psychotic, or you can take directly any psychotic miasm remedy. In syphilitic, there will be degenerative nerve pathology, and because of that, there is urinary incontinence. So, anti-miasmatic prescribing may be needed. In some condition, what happens in despite of giving a proper, well-selected remedy on the basis of totality, it does not work. So directly you can keep in mind that if it is functional weakness, simple, so give any antisoric remedy. If there is obstruction in the, as we also study in the 6th type, one of the causative factor, that bladder outlet obstruction or prostatic enlargement, because of that pressure is induced on the bladder and patient has involuntary leakage of the urine. So that is antipsychotic. Syphilitic is again nerve pathology, degeneration. So there is no sensation. So that is why the patient will pass urine. At last, auxiliary management, which is very important. Homeopathic works, but best with bladder training. You need to give bladder training to the patient. Pelvic floor exercise. There are some of the pelvic floor exercise which you need to explain to the patient. Avoid caffeine and alcohol. Treat constipation and proper hygiene. Okay. So prognosis very good in children. Functional cases, as I told you, psoric is the functional, all the functional cases will come under Sura. Postpartum, very good. Why? Because after postpartum, what happens? The pelvic floor muscles become very weak. So after exercise also, it will really help. Mild prostatic enlargement, in that homeopathic works very well. Moderate in neurological or structural damage. Mild, moderate neurological structural damage. Otherwise, if other than this, we need for surgery in some cases. So this was the explanation of urinary incontinence and homeopathic management. I'm done with this topic.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone who'd like to ask any questions?
Yes,
You can either
Dr.
type in the chat box also.
Yes, Dr. Surabhi, it was really a very good session. You really covered all part of these problems faced by children as women and even old people, and how it can be managed, and what are the medicines that are coming for this kind of diseases. Anyway, congratulations, because there is no time for discussion, I think. Over to the Miss Arya.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am, once again for spending your time and giving us an insight into the role of homeopathy in urinary incontinence. I guess today younger women are also getting this type of incontinence, like stress as well as urge incontinence and all. So it was really a good session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'd like to conclude this session by reminding once again that in case if you have missed any webinar, we upload all these webinars daily in our YouTube channel, IFPH Talks. And that's all for today. I'm concluding this session. Thank you for all the participants who have joined in this webinar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.